This video will cover various tasks that you would do at the period close. Let's go to the period close menu, which is similar to how it was in ACAS, and click on Bank Reco Search. This is where you go and do your bank reconciliations, and the process is very similar to how it was in Tithes and Offerings. The screen looks the same. It functions the same. You can show unverified statements or not. So a benefit is that the screen works a lot quicker. And if you click only unverified statements, it's quick to load and it won't crash like it sometimes did in Tithes and Offerings. The process of verifying and unverifying is quite similar as well. I think you'll find this easy to use because the process is the same as in Tithes and Offerings. Let's go to some reports that you might also run at the period close screen. Some of these have changed where they are in the system. Everything is under the reports menu now. So something you might do is run your GST report. This looks and feels the same as it did in Tithes and Offerings with a few improvements. So that will be familiar to you. You might like to run the income and expense statement. That also looks and feels quite similar. Over on the right is where you choose the account filters. So first of all, you would choose what account. So generally for an income and expense statement, you would choose all of them. You can choose the period start and end. So we'll leave it just for 1 month, but if you wanted to, you could change it using the drop-down list, or you can also type ahead as well, which is a handy feature. You can choose to display the report in whole numbers, and if you wish, you can choose to exclude zero balances. So I'll leave that on no. So once you've selected the filters, click Submit, and the report will be displayed. The budget functionality has been improved in ACAS. Contact your conference if you would like to have the budgets entered, and they will do that for you through the Manage Accounts screen, and then you'll be able to see the budget details entered. All of the income accounts are listed in alphabetical order here. You can see the budget for the entire 2022 year, then the budget just for the period that the report is being run for. You'll see the period actual and the period variance. So not very much had been entered in this ledger in the September period. So then we'll go down to the expenses, and the same thing applies there. The expenses are in alphabetical order with the associated budget amounts, and then we come down to the total. A few things you can do on the reports screen is you can hide these filters by clicking on the little filter icon here. That just gives you more space. Click to bring them back. You can use this zoom to zoom in or out, or you can use the plus or the minus. You can go from page to page either by using these arrows, or you can scroll like that. You have the print option. This is the icon to print just the current page, and this is the export. So if you want to save it to PDF, that works very nicely. You can also export the reports using these other formats. Currently, not all of the reports will transfer beautifully to Excel. We're still working on that, so we'll let the conferences know when that functionality is ready for further testing and using. So that's the income and expense statement, and most other reports run the same, where you choose the filters over on the right and then the report is displayed. Um, Most of the reports in tithes and offerings have been recreated in ACAS. Some were either not needed at all or were used very infrequently, and so those ones may not have been developed yet, but when they are, you'll see them appear on the report list. So I do encourage you to go and run all the reports to see what they all show. Let's go and have a look at the period close now. This is also very similar to how it was in tithes and offerings. So under the period close menu, click on period close. You'll see the screen looks very similar. It has the period to be closed, the check boxes for whether all offerings have been recorded, payments have been recorded, and bank statements have been reconciled. And we can see here, like in tithes and offerings, it tells us that there are receipt entries that have not fully been recorded yet. So before we can tick the first box and proceed, we actually have to go and fix that up. So let's go to income and receipt search. And we would use the unsent only filters checkbox and click search. And this is the hall hire receipt entered in an earlier video that we didn't actually end up sending because you can see there's no receipt number or journal number. So I'll click on email print receipts. There's no email address for the giver, so it's defaulted to print. We will see that on the screen and we can print it if required. Otherwise, I'm just going to close that screen. It does only look at unsent receipts for the period being closed. So if we had entered receipts in October and not sent them yet, they would not impact us closing the September period. So now when we go back to period close, we'll see we're getting a green message now, all receipt entries are sent. So we can go ahead and click the 3 boxes there, provided we have done all of that work. You can see how much is payable in tithes and offerings, our total expense payment. This is what we entered earlier as an expense entry to the conference, but we didn't pay it. And there's the total payable. So here's our expense that we entered earlier, and we'll leave the full amount being paid. Like in tithes and offerings, choose the payment method, the bank account, and any reference that you would like to put in there. I'm just going to change it to cash, seeing as the CMF part of things is not connected anyway. So I'm just going to choose the payment method of cash. And then when I click preview report, the monthly report preview will display like it did, and the total amount that will be paid to the conference. If for some reason you need to make an adjustment, click on the Close Report button. Otherwise, you can go ahead and click Close Period, and that will redisplay the report, and it will also do the roll up and roll in journals in the church ledger and the conference ledger. So now if we go into receipt entry, the period will have updated to October because the September period was just closed. If any mistakes are found to be made, we do have the period reopen functionality that you won't actually see on your menu as a church treasurer, but contact the conference and they would potentially be able to reopen the period or advise what might need to be done instead.